Executive summary. So, we've gone from value proposition to assessing the target audience to marketing and minimum viable product. We then went on to customer development and execution modeling, followed by creating the right team and how to manage your cash flow. We also spoke at length about how to structure your company in terms of shares, agreements, and equity. Lastly, we touched upon getting investment and how to best pitch to clinch those deals. Everything we've done thus far comes down to creating a one-pager. Investors often mention this term, one-pager. What is a one-pager? Your one-pager is essentially your executive summary. It's a very short document, often not more than a page or two at the most, that sums up your startup. Its main purpose is to grab the investor's attention, help you stand out, and get you that meeting. Your one page matters. It's a snapshot of your business, and it should be succinct and a relatively easy read. Imagine a busy executive reading your executive summary over his or her morning glass of orange juice. You want to be able to hook the investor's attention from the first sip. It's not a business plan, and content is key. It creates your first impression without you even being in the room. The content must speak for itself and demonstrate your clarity of thought. An executive summary has just enough detail to pique the reader's interest, grab their attention, to make them smile, and inspire them to contact you so that they can learn more about the business. Think of it as a high-quality marketing collateral that's focused on your business model and the ask. By the end of this lesson, you should have a better idea of what goes into a good executive summary and how to prepare one. Do you know the difference between a business plan and an executive summary? Most business plans are not very useful to investors or to the people who write them. They usually have pages upon pages of market research and very little execution detail about what will actually be done to create the business, which means that the investors have no clue on what you're doing. Market research is fantastic and essential, but you need to balance what you're presenting about the market with ample detail about what will actually be done to create the startup. When writing a startup business plan, you should bias the writing very heavily to execution detail to show what you're doing and planning to do. State the problem, build out the execution detail around the solution to the problem, put some financials in so that the costs are understood, and call the reader to action. A typical length for a business plan is 20 to 30 pages. On the other hand, an executive summary, ideally 2 pages, should have the most representative and most relevant details that were explained in greater detail in the full business plan. You should write the details in a way that will flow most naturally and persuade the reader while also giving you what you need as a guide to running the company. Here are the components of the one-page executive summary that we recommend. Keep in mind that each component includes only the most relevant information. The team, product name, funding status, current stakeholders, strategic partners, strategic customers, revenue and profitability, milestones for MVP and funding, one-sentence pitch, value proposition, market opportunity validation, minimum viable product MVP, business model, SWOT analysis, and competition. Most executive summaries are not read past the top third of the first page. The people who read executive summaries are usually very busy and typically have a large stack of things to read and do, so they tend to be ruthless readers. They'll quickly read the top paragraph or two to see if it grabs their attention, and if it does, they might keep reading. If it doesn't, then they'll likely throw it away and move on to the next executive summary. Entrepreneurs invest their hopes and dreams and sometimes their livelihoods into their summaries and plans, so make sure that the executive summary is compelling. It must make an immediate impact by clearly stating the nature of the business and, if you're seeking capital, the type of financing you want. Are you looking for a $10,000 loan to remodel and refurbish your factory? A loan of $25,000 to expand your product line or buy new equipment? Would you like to find a partner to whom you'd sell 25% of the business? What's in it for the investor? The questions that pertain to your situation should be addressed here clearly and succinctly. Make sure that every word in the executive summary is relevant to persuade the reader that you know what you're doing to build and run the company. Utilize language that appeals to the reader. Words such as debt-free, unencumbered intellectual property, IP or IPR, patents issued, if you can, or patents filed, working prototype, customers secured, money in the bank, and other positive vocabulary will go a long way. However, do refrain from having too many unnecessary buzzwords. You will lose credibility in the mind of the reader if there are typing errors. It implies that you're not being careful and you're not paying attention to details. So, use multiple proofreaders and listen to their feedback. Questions and comments give you insights into what is understandable or not. Sometimes people will invest significant amounts of time into crafting a sexy and catchy opening to an executive summary, and they will hook the reader, but then there's little substance to the rest of the summary. Think of the vital difference between showing and telling. For example, saying that you love someone has a very different impact when compared to showing that you love someone. Telling someone "I love you" is important and very good, but doing things that show your love, when combined with saying it, is powerful. The same applies in business. Telling that you're going to build a solution is good, but it's not the same as showing how you're going to build a solution. Telling that you will enter a given market is interesting, but it needs to be combined with examples that show what actions you will take to enter that market. Show with support of telling. The section on your team should demonstrate how the team complements each other. If you've yet to find suitable people for certain positions, do mention that you're looking to hire those people. One of the sections investors like to focus on is competition. Make sure you address why you're better or different from your competition and how you bring more value. Another tip is to ensure the one-pager is visually appealing. Get feedback or help from a designer if need be. Well-designed summaries are easy on the eyes and create a professional first impression. When talking about your go-to market or expansion plans, the same rule applies. Show with examples, not state. Suppose you're the founder of a visual effects animation studio. An inexperienced individual would say, "Our first market will be Japan," or "We'll enter the Japanese market within the first year." Although this fact is a good thing to know, it doesn't help the audience understand how you'll enter the Japanese market or that you know what you're doing to enter the market. You should give a few representative examples of what you will do with some commentary about why those activities are most important. So, for example, you could say, "When we present to you in greater detail, we can show you the market research that clearly indicates that retired men in Japan are our most likely audience. These silvers, as they're called in Japan, are frequent users of solutions in the same category as ours. During our full presentation, we can give more detail, but simply stated, we'll prepare our market launch in Japan in month 10 from now by 1. Contracting one of the top 5 manga artists who successfully write for the silver market in Japan. 2. The artist will do on placement of our product in the manga at a minimum every 15 frames of the storyline as materially helping the hero of the story to succeed in their activities. 3. The silvers will become attached to the success of the hero because of our product. And 4. We'll launch a series of infomercials targeting silvers during their primetime TV viewing slots for 2 months following the issue of the last book of the manga series featuring our product. We anticipate that 1/3 of the revenue projections for year 2 will be as a result of this activity. We look forward to sharing the detailed financial projections when we meet." So, write from the perspective of the reader, just as you present from the perspective of the listener. What do they need to know and understand? Then show them that you get it. It shows that you understand how your target customer in the market learns and buys. Directing that you're happy to validate further using market research and financials when the investor meets you shows your confidence in your offering. When it comes to submitting your executive summaries, dropping it off at an investor's office is likely to result in it being ignored. Dropping off without an invitation is called a cold placement. If you know someone inside who can hand it to the right person, that's a warm placement. The best is an influencer or decision maker who can hand it to the right person with a strong recommendation to take it and you seriously. This is referred to a hot placement. Do your best to network so that you can stumble upon more opportunities for warm and hot placements. Use your network such as college, work, LinkedIn, etc. to identify the right candidate investor and then ask the person in your network with the connection if they would be able to make an introduction with a positive recommendation. The placement of the document could be a hard copy in print or it could be a soft copy sent via email. You may also capitalize on startup launch platforms such as this one to tap into the mentors and their network. You get the extraordinary opportunity to get mentoring and potentially investment as well. Angel networks are fast gaining popularity as angels are more likely to invest time and money in you. Platforms such as Funded.com and Angel Capital Association have thousands of angel investors providing information on the type of investments they're seeking. Crowdfunding sites are yet another platform to gain access to investors. Lastly, incubators and accelerators. Startup accelerators such as 500 Startups and Techstars offer a physical space to set up your office, making it easy to work with you directly. They may also want a piece of your startup in exchange for funding. You may be puzzled how a potential investor is making a decision worth thousands of dollars based on a 1 to 2 page document, especially when it represents months of hard work and sleepless nights for you and your team, but boiled down to someone else's 5 minutes or even less. Remember, the investor isn't investing based on an executive summary. The executive summary basically serves the purpose of getting your foot in the door. It's the equivalent of the outstanding resume and cover letter that lands you the job interview. Whether or not you get the job lies entirely on how well you perform in the interviews. Similarly, an executive summary that touches all the right points and is clear on the solution it's solving will probably land you a meeting with the investor. It's at this meeting that everything you worked for during the course culminates to that one moment when you pitch. Don't be too disheartened if your first few experiences with investors don't go as planned. Every rejection is a learning experience. Sometimes the investor may not invest right away, but asks to see some traction in the business before he or she invests. That gives you a greater opportunity to not only showcase certain elements of the business, but also accept the investor's guidance to elevate your offering into something investable. Most executive summaries do not inspire the reader because they're filled with research rather than detail about how you'll actually do what you say that you'll do. If the reader is not inspired, they'll most likely not read your full business plan and they will not contact you asking to learn more. The executive summary is often your first opportunity to impress. It's your elevator pitch when you can't be there in person to persuade them. Make it interesting and informative. You need to grab the investor's attention quickly. Otherwise, you'll waste an opportunity that you may never get again. The investor world is smaller than you might think, and word gets around. Prepare and be ready to make every moment and opportunity to persuade as meaningful and powerful as possible. In summary, a full business plan is traditionally 20 to 30 pages, in some cases much more. An executive summary is typically 1 to 2 pages. On a business plan and executive summary, always write the word confidential on every page and always include your name and contact information on every page, otherwise the reader might not know how to contact you. Bias all of your writing to showing executive detail and the true value of your business. Once you have your executive summary to perfection, you're one step closer to having your foot in the door of an investor.